When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
No one goes to Hank's for his spreadsheets. They go for a darn good pizza. Lately, though, the shop's been quiet, so Hank decides to bring back the $1 slice. He asks Copilot in Microsoft Excel to look at his sales and costs and help him see if he can afford it. Copilot shows Hank where the money's going and which little extras make the dollar slice work. Now Hank has a line out the door. Hank makes the pizza, Copilot handles the spreadsheets. Learn more at m365copilot.com/work.
This summer, serve up the cookout classics, Kraft mayo and dressing. Toss green salads with delicious ranch dressing or zesty Italian. Serve smooth, craveably creamy potato salads with mayo. We all know it's not a cookout without Kraft.
This episode is brought to you by Beneful. Dogs of the world, lend me your ears, snoots, and little toe beans. We've been sitting and staying for boring food for too long. It's time to demand high-quality ingredients, fresh from the pantry. Together with Beneful freshly prepared meals, we can start a mealtime revolution. Can I get a woof woof? Kick boring in the bowl with Beneful freshly prepared meals. Visit Purina.com/Beneful to shop now.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 365, interview with Swapped director Nathan Greno. Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, Animation Addicts. I'm your host, Morgan Stradling, and I'm back again for another episode of the Animation Addicts Podcast. This time I have a fun interview for you. This is from the press junket of the new Skydance animation film, Swapped, which is being released on Netflix on May 1st, 2026. So this interview is with the director of Swapped, Nathan Greno. You might know him as the co-director of a little film called Tangled. He worked at Walt Disney Animation Studios for quite a long time, and he was actually set to be the director of the canceled project Gigantic, which you might remember that one. That was a movie about Jack and the Beanstalk, which ultimately was shelved. And after that, he ended up moving over to Skydance Animation, which was just fledgling at the time. In this interview, we'll talk about his journey to get to Skydance Animation, his inspiration in making this film, how he was able to create such a vibrant, unique world, and lots of other behind-the-scenes goodies of Swapped. So this is the first film that he has released with Skydance Animation. It is a lot of fun. I got to preview it before doing this interview, and I would encourage you to check out the film before listening to this interview. It's on Netflix by the time this interview comes out. And of course, if you want to see my written review of Swap, you can find that in the show notes of this episode. I'm really honored to be able to sit down and talk with Nathan about his new film. So without further ado, here is my interview with Nathan. All right, we're here with Nathan Greno, who is the director of the new Skydance animation film Swapped. So welcome to the show, Nathan.
Hey, Morgan. I'm very excited to be speaking with you today, and this is like a dream come true. Let's do it.
All right, so this is really, really exciting because Skydance is kind of a newer studio compared to some of the other legacy studios, and you have quite a tenured career. So tell us what drew you to this project and how this project came to be.
Yeah, well, I was at Disney for a long time. I actually dropped out of college and went to Disney back in the 90s. So I was there for 20 plus years. And, it felt like it was time to for a change, to do something new and something different. And I was looking around town. My wife kept looking at, like you said, more established kind of studios at the time. She's like, oh, you'll probably go there, whatever. She was kind of like placing her bets. And then I went to a bit of a new idea. And there's something that was really exciting about, I'm so inspired by, you look at Pixar or something in the early days and what they built. And so there's something about like, what if you went to the new place that doesn't have an identity yet and is building something? There was something that was just so like, I don't know, it was just, it gave me a lot of fuel and try something new.
So with the film, can you talk about where you came on in the process? Was this your idea? Was it something that had kind of been floating around the studio? And how did you take it from this ideation of a body swap film, basically, or maybe that wasn't where it started, to where it ended up being?
Yeah, great question. It started, so I wanted to tell a story about empathy. Like I felt we were like, and this was 6-7 years ago. Like it takes a long time to make these films, and so animated films. And so I wanted to tell a story about empathy because I felt like where we were at in the world, and now where we're at in the world, I'm like, yes, time to release this thing. And so I really wanted to put a positive message in the world. It's not a message movie per se. Like there's a lot of like fun and entertainment, but I think, to put something out there to make you like maybe open your mind and kind of think a little differently, that's been my journey. I started at a very small town in Wisconsin, and to go out into the world and experience the world and kind of realize like, oh, people think differently. And for me, that was, it's always been a positive thing. It's sometimes it's challenging, sometimes it's uncomfortable because it's not what you're used to, but it's always rewarding. So for me, it was like to put something out there in the world like that was a good thing.
Yeah. That's one thing that I really appreciated and noticed when I was watching the film is sometimes the message is important, but sometimes you are just like whacked over the head like the frying pan while you're watching it. You're rolling your eyes. You're like, okay, we got it. We like trees. Like the environment's great, right? But I really appreciated that this was very, even though it's all animals, it was very human. It was very normal in it. And you could see as you got to understand the points of view of the different characters, how basically we're stronger together, which is what they say. So can you talk about what I really loved also was the world. It was so colorful. It was vibrant. I feel like everything is a lot muted now in the 2020 era. So talk about developing the film, the color palette, the visualizations, and then ultimately these two characters. How did you choose what they were, what animals? I mean, it's all fantasy, but...
It is fantasy, and I think that was the fun of it, was like to go into a new world. And I think if we're going to tell, it started with, if we're going to tell a story about empathy and walking a mile in someone else's shoes, we've seen that movie over and over where it's like the human turns into the animal and the human realizes they were wrong. And so let's not do that again, and not to say like it can't be done well, because it has been done well, but it was like, let's do something new and fresh and original. So how do you do that? First off, like, how about no humans in the movie at all, right? And so that was something. And then where are we going to set it? It's just going to be animals. We've seen with some of my favorite movies, Jungle Book. Here's the panther can talk to the bear and can talk to the orangutan or whatever. But in this movie, to create the other, that was the big thing, was to create differences to tell this story. And animals were a great place to start, because how in the world could a mouse have anything in common with an elephant? And what if we pushed that idea? What if we said, and this is why we created our own creatures, what if we said this little tiny rodent-like creature that is entirely animal, what in the world on a plant to animal spectrum, the most plant-like creature with a walking redwood, what in the world could those two things have in common with each other? Seemingly nothing. And that's what the movie's about, is like we're all connected in this world.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about Ollie and how you ultimately developed him, and then Ivy too?
Well, it started with Ollie was very much me. Like, it was very much like me in my small town from Wisconsin, and wanting to go to art school and wanting to go work in animation. And my father, who's passed away, but it was always very protective, and he was always saying like, no. There's a factory town. You get a job in the factory. That's what our family's always done. And so don't leave the island. Why leave the island? And so that's where it all started. And then this idea of like, no, there is a uncomfortableness of leaving the island. But when you go out there, again, like I said, there's rewards to it. And so it started with that sort of deep down an idea like that. That speaks to me. We did the same thing on Tangled. It's like, it's a bubble. You're in a bubble and you don't know what you don't know. So to me, that was very important, was this little creature that's moving throughout the film. And then it was just coming up with the wild creatures of the valley and that kind of thing, is like putting enough twists and turns and that kind of thing, and showing the audience something they haven't seen before. Because there's so much, in a great way, there's so much content being made these days. How do you do something new? How do you surprise audiences? And that was the goal.
Yeah. So what I loved about Ollie's character is that you really build him up at the beginning, where you see that he's smart, he's resourceful, he doesn't give up, right? He sees a problem and he's able to figure it out and get there. And then ultimately he's able to, something happens that has long-lasting effects for him and his community. And it's a big deal because, I mean, it happened and he still has to deal with it years later. And then he's able to see, ultimately how that affects other people as well. So I will commend you for that, because I thought that was really a great way to introduce that character, and that he had something he had to overcome that like wasn't really his fault. It was just trying to be a nice guy. So can you talk maybe a little bit about that without going too much into it, I guess?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we've seen the version of this movie where it's like, I learned I was wrong. That's not the world we live in. The world we live in is very nuanced. And so what we tried to do was put ourselves in the position of Ollie, where you go, well, there's some things we believe in this world that are correct. Now, maybe I disagree with other people on things, but what I learn is, as I go through life, is like, well, other people have a point too. And an emotional point that they believe in, that then once I understand it, I can get on board with as well. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. And so it was it was the hardest part about this movie, was like going from screening to screening, where people would go like, I'm with the Puku, I'm with the Jeb. And it's like, but the answer is the world is gray. And it's like, it's not easy. And it's like, how do you tell that story, So that was a incredibly big challenge for us. And I feel like we got there.
So can you talk about creating these creatures? Because going into this, I didn't really expect this to be so like fantasy, like whimsical, I guess, with some of the characters. There's the fire wolves. There's, I'll call them tree deer, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah. There's a lot of really creative ideas and concepts that are happening here, which I was just so impressed with. So can you talk about, as you were developing the style for this, and how you ended up deciding to go that way versus like, this is going to be a squirrel?
Yeah, well, in the very early versions of this thing, we were talking about it as like, well, what if a mouse who only understands as far as his whiskers? We kept talking about it in very, very simple ways like that. And then how we were going to shoot the movie. So we looked at a lot of like nature documentaries, and like small creatures literally, can't see that far, and how nature documentaries are shot. So we kept looking at that. And then again, so we don't get ahead of things, what if we brought the audience into a world that we could exaggerate in that sense with scale and scope, and this plant to animal relationship within their own physicality. So all of those things went into the thinking behind it, and then a beautiful world that you want to spend time in. I mean, that was something too that, if you could go there, you would. Like, and that was something that when we watch a trailer or something, it's like, we're asking audiences to spend 90 minutes in this world. It better be beautiful. The creatures better be appealing in their own sense. So all of that. And then, like you said, the firewolf and that is to show the audiences something they haven't seen before.
Yeah. Well, I hope if there's not an art book for this, I would love it, because I'd love to see, ultimately what made the cutting room floor, what other designs didn't make it, and the whole process behind it. Another thing that I noticed was the voice acting. I really liked the cast and how different they all felt. It was interesting that the bird, Ivy and her sisters were British, and everyone had kind of these distinct voices based on what species they were. So you talk a little bit more about casting this film and how you ended up on the style and your main leads.
Yeah, of course. And first off, there is an art of book, so you'll be
perfect. I'm gonna order it right away.
Yeah, so that's great. That's coming. And then what we're trying to do is create distinct cultures within one another, and that these cultures, they can't speak to one another, and but at the same time, like I've been talking about, but I do think there's a relatability, even if as different as we are, there's this relatability. So how do you create those cultures? And casting was a big part of it. We had this idea once we cast Juno. We were like, well, maybe everyone in that culture has Juno's accent, and just kind of finding ways to always trying to find ways to create differences from one another. And then also, within design, we had a very unique thing, obviously within this movie, where we're going to take characters and transform them into other characters, other species within that world. And then how do you, make the species as different as possible, but we still want to see Michael B. Jordan's character as he goes from a puku to a bird, a javelin. How do we still maintain that? And so that was part of a long process of design. And so what is a javelin? What is Michael B. Jordan as a javelin? What is Juno's character as she moves through the movie? So all of that was hard math, I'll say. Yeah.
What I liked as I was watching it, it's a very small cast. We're not meeting every puku in the land and all the things, and I really appreciated that, because I was really able to focus on really our main two characters and a few others here and there. And I didn't feel, there were no humans, right? So I didn't feel like I was having to catch up on Papa Smurf and this Smurf, like all these different characters. And I really appreciated that. So, and another thing I noticed, and you kind of alluded to this, was just the animation style. It felt very like a macro lens that we're really getting into the details of the feathers, and it just felt fresh and new as far as animation, because I feel like nowadays, anyone can animate almost, it seems. The software is there. So talk a little bit more about creating the art style for this and the animation style to make it stand out from everything else that's out there.
Yeah, well, that was tricky. One of my, I think that I was most excited about recently in animation is the Spider-Verse movie. When that came out, I was like, wow, this is fresh and different. And then everybody started doing that. And it's like, that's great. It works so well for that story. And it was so amazing for that story. And given, contextually, everything about it. And so for us, it was like, well, what are we going to do that not necessarily to stand out, but what's right for our story, what's true to our story, and not just do what's maybe popular right now, but what can we do that feels right for this kind of storytelling. So we kept looking at nature documentaries, and so Morgan, if you and I look at a picture of a small animal, we look at a mouse, let's say, with no background, or even dogs that come in so many different sizes, you and I could go oh, that's a little dog. That's a big dog. That's we can tell just looking at an animal, the scale, what scale they are. We wanted to bring that to the film, and it's that believability, because emotionally we want everyone to be grounded. And in order to do that, I think in a sort of Bambi sort of way, you have to believe that these characters exist. And with Bambi, they're using real creatures. We wanted these creatures to feel just as real, as if they exist in this world. So we put a tremendous amount of time into building an ecosystem that works, characters that the fur and everything about it tells you scale when you see it. It's not just focal length, it's beyond that. So it was a whole process of design.
Yeah. So what are you hoping that audiences take away from the film the most?
For me, it's been my journey through life to realize I do not. There's a lot of things I don't know, and so as I've been going through life, it's starting in my little town in Wisconsin and going out into the world. It's gaining perspective, and I think it makes me a better person. My wife has helped me be a better person, and I think it's through different perspectives. And I think it's the same thing here. Is like if I could put something in the world. That is like just be open-minded and just understand that we're all connected. It's the differences between us are real, but at the same time, it's not so black and white that I'm right and you're the villain. It's like I have a point of view, you have a point of view. We have a lot in common beneath that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag Animation Addicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.